This is Shay Bynes, founder and chief fire igniter of Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur, and this is the KDE Podcast Live. With a beautifully diverse panel of co-hosts, get ready for powerful and fresh perspectives of what it looks like to be a Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur. Let's go.
Let's go. Oh, y'all, look at this beautiful diversity. Just all these beautiful people, all the different colors. We just look so gorgeous today.
Thank you so much.
Hey, everyone. You are listening, or you are watching. Maybe you are listening to another episode of the KDE Podcast Live. I am Latara Venice, and we are here today with Joy, Alicia, Dory, Brandon, and Phil. Most of the hosts. You will always see that on the first or fifth Wednesday of the month. The majority of the hosts will be here. Why? Because I can. And because if that's how we want to do it, then that's how we're going to do it. That's why. So just make sure you're here so you can join in on the fun. And we're going to have a lot of fun today. Like I thought about this. I was like, what are we going to talk about this week? And I said, we should ask each other questions. And we're going to get into that. There is no specialist segment the fifth Wednesday of the month. And that's good because all the specialists are here anyway, minus one, right? Mm-hmm. So that's cool. That is cool. But before we move on into this fun part of asking the questions, and no, do not DM me questions again. Do not DM me questions. I'm not asking the questions. We're asking each other the questions. What's going on in your world? What is happening in your business, in your life? Let's start with Brandon today.
Yeah, the last week has been solid from a business perspective. And I think one thing that's encouraging, as I'm sure all of you have noticed this too, but the longer you're in business, things just seem to happen, right? Where maybe at the beginning, it can seem challenging to onboard new clients and find people to start working with. But as you work in your business a bit longer, things just fall into place. Sometimes it almost feels too easy in certain cases. Now, I'm not saying business is easy in general. Don't mishear me, but someone who's already a client is going to be doing more business with me, and he reached out to me, and we just have to put it together. So those are always encouraging and very nice to have. And like I said, for someone out there who maybe hasn't yet experienced that, your time's coming. So that's been fun. And then our weather in Southern California is beautiful. So just trying to take advantage of getting outside. Rode my mountain bike a few times over the last week, which was a ton of fun. So those are the two main things I've got going on.
You out there right on them cliffs, Brandon?
Not terribly too close to the cliffs, but hey, I even wear my full face helmet, so I've got my knee pads, my elbow pads. Like
I'd be that kind of mama. I'd be like, son, do you have your helmet on? Do you have your protective gear? Well, very good. I just, I live vicariously through some of you all because there's some stuff I'm not gonna do. One is bike on cliffs and mountain biking, and the other is scuba diving. Joy. Let's go to you.
Well, speaking of scuba diving, I just got done with like a 3-week sprint where I didn't have any downtime. And, I did eat and sleep, but outside of that, I was doing a 14-day workshop and working on client needs. And so my treat to myself was I got to go scuba diving. It was amazing. And the conditions were just outstanding. I could 100 feet of visibility. For those of you that don't dive, that is unusual. It was gorgeous. In addition to that, what else is going on? The Lord has been giving me some new downloads for expansion of the Joyful Communications checklist. And I'm dreaming, sleeping, and it's coming out of me like there's no tomorrow. I can't wait to release this new series to the world. So yay, that's coming.
Yay. Yeah, love it. I love it. I was going to ask about what are good conditions for scuba diving, but you already answered. So thank you for sharing. All right, Dory.
Well, no scuba diving here and no beach trips this week. But hey, I've been busy drumming as usual. But like Brandon was saying, when you're in business for a while, I no longer freak out when one client is done with their program because there's usually one or two right behind him or her. So that's good. So we have some people renewing. I have some new clients starting. I also have some opportunities that I'll be starting in September for group events. So that's cool. And like Joy, I'm getting divine downloads and confirmations on things on the coaching side. So we'll see where that goes.
Awesome. That is so cool. Thank you so much. I think you said the word download, and I think Joy said the word download. I don't know why that word makes me itch, but okay. I don't know why when people say download, because I guess I don't know. I'll be like, I'm not a computer. God doesn't download anything to me. But anyway, that's just
Revelation. How's that?
Now I can take that one. Yeah.
All right.
Communication, a conversation. That word download has always made me itch. It's a lot of words that we say that in the kingdom and Christianese, and I'll be like, hey, y'all need to stop that. But anyway, I'm not saying stop that. I'm not telling y'all say download. Just know that every time you say it, it literally makes me itch.
Well, now Joy and I are going to say it more just for that.
All right, Alicia.
Yeah, well, I have two exciting pieces of news. First of all, I don't know if you can read this or if it's backwards. Oh, it's backwards. I got this new t-shirt and it's so cool. It says Flower Child Sourdough Edition. And then John 6:35, I am the bread of life. Coolest thing ever. So I want to say, for just real quick, for any of you who are small businesses and you're creating creative stuff like that, just hang in there, because there is somebody who needs exactly what you have. I bought an obscene number of t-shirts when I found these. So, but you know what? I just got back from a trip to the mountains in Arkansas, a really amazing little cabin, and it was for a retreat that I went on, but I had a significant amount. I was very focused on, I'm going to spend time alone.
Uh-oh, we lost her.
Uh-oh, did we lose Alicia?
Yeah.
She's frozen.
Froze.
You froze.
Am I back?
Okay, there you go.
Dang it.
It's kind of like a Chinese movie.
I spent some time alone with the Lord. Dang, sorry. Let me try to turn the video off. That might help. But I spent some time alone with the Lord, and I had 3 specific questions I needed answered, and I got very, very clear answers and some really amazing revelation on the parable of the minas, which if you know the difference between that and the parable of the talents, there are a lot of differences. But in the parable of talents, the master says, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a little. I'm going to trust you with much, and gives more money, or gives and has him manage the money. But in the parable of the minas, it says, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful a little. I'm going to put you over cities. And so God had that really specifically on my heart. And I'm like, well, I better darn well know what he's saying in that parable, if that's what he's bringing to my heart.
Love that. Cool. I like that. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm just so excited to see, we just had said that Brandon said that we should dedicate one of our episodes to talking about kingdom in politics. But, I might have to block some of y'all. So I don't know if I can do that. Let me think on how that's going to work. Because that's going to bring some people out when they know, oh, they're talking about politics. Let me get on there. But, I think sometimes we have to have the tough conversations in order to grow. And I don't think that we know how to handle kingdom confrontation very well. And, being that this is a season where God is speaking maturity to many of his people and helping and calling on us to actually help others to mature, well, maybe we should have the conversation. We'll see. But if y'all get bad, I'll cut the whole show off. Like, we done. Bye. Mr. Bynes.
Hey, well, speaking of maturity, I just keep getting download upon download upon download. Oh, is that opposite of maturity? Okay. So what's going on over here? Well, God has recently given me a change for one of the things that we're doing in community. And so it concerns our courses, and I don't want to give away too much too soon, but if you are listening to the podcast, just keep your eyes open for your emails tomorrow, because I think it'll be really, really cool. But it's about impact and being able to impact more people. And so that's what God has been speaking to me about with KDE overall. And And I think that's what he's doing in this season. Now, personally, let's see. Things are starting to fall into place. We're getting all the things that we need for life and godliness in the Bynes household. And I'm just excited to see the quick turnarounds that God's doing with all the things he's causing us to walk in this season. So that's it. I said a lot of words, and I don't know if I said anything, but
you said enough. And listen, if you are not on the KD, the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur list, jump on over to kingdomentrepreneur.com. Go to start here and make sure you sign up, because it's some good news. Trust me, you're going to want to know what we're talking about. Like, for real. And if you listen to this later, still go join the list so you'll know what we're talking about. Like, for real. Let's see. In my life, it's always the garden this time of year. Y'all know that. I've been learning some lessons. I thought I was going to have to pull my bean plant because it was so beautiful and bushy. And I was like, I'm not getting any pods. I don't understand. And, I've been really talking to people about learning how to hear God, specifically in the area of health, learning how to hear him for your health, but just learning how to hear him for everything. And so I heard last week, it was like, you need to cut down some of those leaves, and it was starting to get some like spider mites on it. So it was like little like webs and stuff on there. So I cut back some of the leaves and I sprayed it with a solution of peroxide and water. Hint, if you ever have anything that looks like it's diseased, just use some peroxide and water, not half and half, just a little bit, about a teaspoon of peroxide to about 32 ounces of water, and just spray. And so I sprayed them really, really good. And I sprayed my peppers and my tomatoes because nothing was blooming. I was like, what? I should have more than this. I'm not getting anything. And I just kept hearing, cut it back, just cut it back, cut it back. And I cut it back. And the other day I watered them so well, and they got watered well because I forgot to turn the sprinklers on, turn them off overnight. So when I woke up in the morning, I said, oh, the ground is good and wet out. Oh, the sprinklers are still on. But how about when I went out there, there was like a ton of bean pods that I had not seen the day before. And I was like, where'd they all come from? And all these peppers and all of this stuff, and just all these lessons I'm learning about the garden. It just reminded me that you have to make sure you have proper nourishment. You prune and you nourish, you prune and you nourish. And that's what gives a good garden. It's not hard to garden. It's just work to make it, come to fruition. So I'm excited because I got like about 50 bean pods out there. I might actually have a good pot of black beans, y'all, this year. A good pot of black beans.
Latara, so many good business analogies and all of that.
Yeah, I have my peppers coming, and I'm super excited about that. It means I can make my sauce. I'm gonna miss my sister this year because I always made her hot sauce. And I say, your jar of hot sauce is here. Your pepper sauce is here. Pepper sauce is just vinegar, y'all. It's pepper vinegar, really. We just call it pepper sauce. And so I'm super excited to see all of that coming. And that was just like, it is an analogy for business too, because that's what's happening in business. I'm cutting, I'm pruning, I'm nurturing. I'm cutting, pruning, I'm nurturing. And I'm just watching it grow little by little. I told y'all the journey I've been on. I still don't have goals for the rest of the year. I just get up with God and go, what we doing today? I know what the assignment is, but I don't have specific goals. I know, isn't that a no-no in business? But when you are moving with God, it's not a no-no. Like if he says, just go with me every day, then that's what you do. So I don't have any goals because that's what God told me not to do. And it's a learning lesson. And that's where I am. And no, I'm not writing a book. Don't ask me to. I get that a lot. You should write a book about your journeys. That's not what I'm doing. Don't ask me. So I don't know what we're doing with it. I just know that I'm a testimony to how you move and what God is telling you to do. And I can't wait to see how he shifts this whole thing. So that's what's been going on with me. And now we're getting ready to jump into this fun part of asking questions. I gave them instructions on what to do. And so what we're going to do is have a little fun and ask each other some questions. I told them there was like just ask the questions. I didn't give any specific parameters because I know everybody here does things decent and in order. And so
some of us shoot from the hip, but hey,
And if you have to do things, and sometimes shooting from the hip is order. And so if you have to do things, if you do things out of order, I'm a private chat y'all. That's what I'm gonna do. But we're just gonna have some fun today because sometimes listen, fun is kingdom. God gave us the ability to laugh and have fun. And so we need to learn how to do that. So who do I want to ask the first question? For some reason, I think I want to start with Alicia. I want her to ask the first question. Who you
Yeah,
choose?
so my question is for Brandon. And I have some fun questions, but I'm actually going to start with one that's a serious one. So your business and what you operate, what you deal with on a daily basis, money is something that is really easy to fall into the ways of the world in. And so my question for you, Brandon, is how do you balance that, really using some of that wisdom from the world at the same time as you're operating from a kingdom perspective in business that deals with money?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So one, it's interesting because I think even people will say this is good wisdom or this is maybe worldly wisdom, isn't actually worldly wisdom to begin with. It's biblical, but maybe they've just changed the word and not using Christianese with it, because there's a lot about stewardship, of course, in the Bible. You were even talking about the talents and the minas earlier. I think that's a really important piece as kingdom entrepreneurs. If we can understand the stewardship piece, which applies to way more than just our money, by the way, every area of our life from a stewardship perspective, that's going to be step one. And then there's a lot of awesome biblical principles too. Even Proverbs is full of them, where it talks about wealth gained hastily will dwindle. Talks about get rich quick schemes, how they typically also don't work, and making sure that you're not manipulating and getting too caught up in greed. Because I think that where a lot of people go wrong is it's not money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money, right? And people are chasing after money, basically making money the idol. And I think that's where the issue lies, not from a business perspective, from a healthy perspective. We want to have profit. We want our businesses to grow. We want to serve people well. So that's all fine as long as money doesn't become the true idol. So high level, focus on the stewardship aspect, understand that part, and then just serve your customers and clients well. And then of course be spirit led at the same time, and think you're well on the right track.
That's good. That's a good question. And I love that you said something very specific, is that a lot of things that we think, you were like, that's not necessarily a worldly aspect. That's biblical. That's biblical. And so I love that. I always love to hear you talk about the finance piece. And so, yeah, that was a good question, Alicia. That was a good question. Does anybody have a question for Brandon that kind of piggybacks on that a little bit before we move on? Nobody? Okay, so Brandon, your turn.
All right. Joy, what's one of your biggest pet peeves when it comes to copywriting?
When it comes to I was like, oh, copywriting. Okay, because I've got a long list of pet peeves on copywriting. I think when it comes to copywriting, from my perspective, this is Joy applying the work with other people, is I'm a detail girl, and I can get so caught up in what I've written that sometimes I write too much, and it's a pet peeve. Like I'm running into myself going, Joy, okay, dial it back. You don't have to tell everything, right? And then when I'm working with other people, I feel that a pet peeve that I have is that people don't read everything. They don't follow all the directions. They get excited and they go right to the end, and they don't realize that copywriting is a progressional thing, that everything builds on the next thing, right? And so you can't skip right to the end. You really have to work your way through the process if you're going to produce good results. So I kind of gave you two pet peeves, one from my perspective and one from the perspective of people I'm trying to teach.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you've taught me so much, even in the PS, and you do it yourself. You'll oftentimes PS, hey, if you skip to the bottom, go back up and read. So I think you even just sharing that and having that knowledge can then incorporate, oh, how do people respond? Oh, let me make sure that I put that in the PS, so then they actually go back and read what they need to read. So
right.
That's cool. Good. That's good. That's good. And I thought of a question as you were talking, Joy. Why do you think you kind of like overgive in your writing?
Why do I overgive in my writing?
Yeah, you mentioned that you got told yourself you have to scale back. Why
Right,
do you
right.
think you do that?
I think perhaps I think it multifaceted. One is because I am a detail girl, but two, I'm very creative. And when the creativity comes out of me, it's usually not a stream. It's usually like a waterfall. It just pours out and it's all good. And it's like, well, where do I cut it? Because I'm in love with all aspects of this. And so it's really hard sometimes to, edit yourself. It's kind of like Dr. Heal Thyself, right? You need another person's perspective to help you go, yeah, that was beautiful, Joy, but why don't we take this back? And I do, by the way, have trusted people in my world that I go to, and I did it just this morning with Mike Schuster and said, hey, I've got this great idea, but can you give me your perspective? Is it just me geeking out on this, or do you think this is really important? So
Yeah, that's good. I love that. I used to do that a lot with being as a storyteller, and then one who is always going live. And I'd be like, we've been on here for an hour and 15 minutes, and it's just my mouth talking because I just feel like there's so much to share. And I've had to learn how to really scale it back to 30 minutes. Now I go 30, maybe 40 minutes at the most, usually when I'm doing a live, if that. So it took me a while though to get to that place where it was like, okay, you can talk about that later. Like that's give the main points and let's move on, Latara.
If I could pull on that thread, the biggest thing that I learned years ago in corporate, and it applies in copywriting, is if you start with the end in mind. Is when you're dealing, I'm sorry, Phil and Brandon, but when you're dealing with men, they don't care about all those details that us as women care about, right? So start with the end and say, hey, here's what I'm going to tell you, and then fill in the gaps, right?
Yeah, that's good. No, men are like waffles, women are like spaghetti.
There you go.
You know, women, we like this. Men are very compartmentalized, like a waffle. The syrup goes in each compartment. Right? But women, we're all over the place, like spaghetti, you know. So look at Phil. He's like, huh? Yeah.
Although, as somebody who's worked with guys in multiple businesses, especially in the music field, I had to communicate to them differently and how to bullet point it. As a result, I personally, even though I'm a gal, I really don't like really long copies. So when I go to people's websites and it just keeps going on and on and on, I want to scroll to the bottom, Joy, get to the point. How much is this going to cost?
That's me too. And listen, I shop like men. When I go, except for a grocery store, when I'm in a grocery store, I will shop the outer parameters forever. Like it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in heaven. But typically, if I go and I'm shopping for clothes, or I'm not trying to. I don't go with my mom and my niece when they say we're going to the mall. Y'all go on by yourself because I got things to do. I am like, I do think like a man like that. I don't like doing all that shopping. I don't like reading long copy. I don't like doing all of that. So, but I am more like a woman. I'm like spaghetti, means I'm all over the place, and I'm not a waffle. And you know, all right, Joy, your turn.
My turn. Okay, let's go to Dory for a second.
Okay.
You know, you have mentioned that you are one of the more seasoned entrepreneurs in our group repetitively. So what advice would you give to younger entrepreneurs about building a sustainable business while maintaining a strong faith foundation?
That's a good question, Joy. Yes, I have been at this entrepreneur game since 1995. I'm on my fourth business now, and learn from my mistakes, people. Some of the things to consider is don't run ahead of God. You might have a really good idea, but God might have other plans. So there might be a point where you're just going to put stuff out there, going to put out this program, going to put out this website. You might want to do a little bit of sitting with the Holy Spirit, number one. And number two, get feedback from different people, do some market research and that sort of thing. And number three, make sure you pick out a good business name, research it so you're not copying someone else's name, and don't make it hard to spell with hyphens and things like that. So yeah, you've got to keep things really simple. And like Latara was saying, sometimes you have to pare things back because you probably have 1,001 ideas. Rein it a little bit and just start one step at a time.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Miss
Sure.
Dory.
That's good. That's good. I love that. That's perfect. That is like to the T, period, point blank, like we said earlier before we went live. That's period, point blank advice, wisdom from someone who's been doing this for 25 years, right? Y'all
Yeah.
need to listen. Hear
Yep.
it.
Yeah. My hashtag is wisdom from a rockin' grandma. I'm available for talks, webinars, telesummits,
Yes,
corporate
yes,
events. There
that's
you go.
good. Oh my gosh. All right, Dory, you're next.
All righty. My question is for Alicia. It's not political, don't worry. I'd like to know, and I'm sure a lot of other people out there would as well. For those of you who don't know, Alicia used to own a bakery. So, Alicia, you devoted 7 years to that business, correct?
Mhm.
How did you know when that season had ended and it was time to step into the political arena?
Wow, that is a really good question. So I will say I want to be really clear. I learned a lot of lessons, just like I think all of us have in our first areas of business. That was absolutely a dream business of mine, and I learned and grew so much. I made mistakes and I made some of them really big. So there was a season, and also owning a store frontage during COVID, there were seasons and times where, I mean, I think every one of you heard me being like, is it time? Is it time? Is it time? There was never once a peace in my heart until the moment when I was supposed to say, okay, it's time to close the doors. And literally, when I say peace that passes all understanding, I mean, it made no sense. I did still have some mourning and some sorrow to go through after closing the bakery. But absolutely, it was very clear. I would say, as far as changing my mindset into what I'm doing now in community and then somewhat in the political arena, it's weird to say but it was almost a natural progression. Like, God raised me up for what he was calling me into while I was in the bakery. He said, okay, go do this thing. And I was like, oh, that'll be fun, being a part of a planning commission. That'll be really cool to get to touch the fabric of a community in that way. And so I did that. He put me in a position to be involved in a comprehensive planning and a strategic planning process. And I'm like, oh, that would be really fun to get to, touch the fabric of a community in this way. So over and over and over again, he just opened doors while I had the bakery as a business owner to participate in different foundational pieces of our community. What I didn't know is he was sending me to college. So, so God moved us into a new community, and he said, so I prepared you to meet a need. Now meet that need. And so that's kind of what took me here. Is just, it was this natural progression, and I resisted it for a while. But I brought up about the parable of the minas earlier, is that God reminded me of that one day, and I was resisting the whole, hey, I never even ran for student body secretary before, let alone, mayor of a community. That was never something I dreamed about. And he reminded me of that parable, and he said, I have given you treasure, now you need to invest it. And so, there's an obedience in investing what he's given to you when he calls you to it.
That's good.
Good
And
stuff.
I was thinking, Alicia, he also prepared you because you used to do community type things within the bakery. So he taught you
Yes.
how to build community from there too, right? So
Yes.
yeah. That's good. Okay. All right. Okay, Alicia, you're next.
Well, I have a question for Phil Bynes. I like to answer questions that I somewhat know the answer to, but I'm kind of looking forward to seeing if Phil surprises me with this one. So what is it like for you? This is titillating conversation here. What is it like for you? I mean, you are a strong, confident business owner and man, but to have then step into the shoes and the position held by your wife, who is a strong, confident business owner and woman, and make that position your own and represent yourself. What does that feel like, and how did you do that?
Let's see. I want to say it was comfortable, but it was not fully comfortable because when you get comfortable doing your own thing, it's kind of like, okay, I'll do this to help out, but it's not. It was hard to take it on fully as my own, right? So this is her baby, and so I had to learn, and God had to walk me through what it looks like for it to become my baby too. right? Walking through Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur. Um, the thing that serves me the best in doing it though is once I got the revelation that I am a servant first, right? And in order to be the greatest in my household, in order to be the greatest in the kingdom of God as a whole, I have to be the servant of all, right? And so being prepared like that, even, from children's ministry to, serving my daughters in the house and serving my family and trying to serve them well, it prepared me to be able to do it in the business arena as well. Because even stepping into the CEO role, I still see my wife as not necessarily the visionary, because I'm the visionary for the season, but it's still this thing that God is doing. Even though she's not in the CEO role, there's still building that she has left to do.
Yeah.
There is still as an apostolic type of leader, there's still direction that she's putting out there, right? And my job is to catch hold of the direction in which it should go and pair all the things together. So knowing that makes it a little bit easier to not feel the weightiness of this thing, because just in my own skills as a massage therapist, there's nothing about my story that should say that, oh yes, it's a kingdom driven entrepreneur, you should be the CEO of it. So God is using other aspects of my life in allowing me to plug that into what I'm supposed to do here.
That's good. That's good. I like that. Yeah, that's good. That can be. I can imagine that probably was like, what CEO? Me? No, for this, that's Shay thing, not you. I can imagine, man. Good question. Great answer, Mr. Bynes. It's your turn.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go with the person on the top of my list here when I was creating my questions, which is Dory. So, Dory, I picture you as a free spirit. How do you handle when God asks you to do something in your business that is the opposite of your normal flow?
Ah,
Good.
well, it's interesting because, even though I joke, shoot from the hip and all, I am both left and right brain. So I'm right in the middle. Thanks to drumming, I think it's integrated both hemispheres of my brain so I can focus better. So I actually am really good at planning, especially because one of my previous business was planning events. So there were a lot of moving parts, and I did it solo, from getting the venue to booking the bands to doing the contracts to emceeing the show, stage manager, all of that. So it's amazing when I look back and think, how did I do all that? Oh, yeah, I had a system and it worked really well. So, yes, I can uh, improvise when needed. I always say I'm a percussionist. I know how to improvise. That comes in handy when something doesn't work out as you had planned or there's a sudden change. I know how to flip the switch quickly. However, I do need to have some structure so that I keep the train on the tracks and I don't lose track of time. And, time management is a biggie for a lot of creatives. And so that I actually start things and finish them. Always a good thing.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. That's what did Shay Vines tell me one time when I was like, well, I just want to be a free spirit. And she was like, well, if you get more discipline, you can worry about having a spirit that's free. Like, you know what? And I said, touche, you're right. Oh gosh, thank you for sharing that. All right, Dory, it's your turn.
All righty. I'd like to I have a question for Brandon. Are you ready? Now, Brandon, you work a lot with millennials, correct? Or you have a younger target market.
Mhm.
However,
Yeah.
what would you say to older entrepreneurs who've been doing this for a while and somehow got so caught up with their businesses, they totally forgot about planning for retirement? Asking for a friend, of course.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think a lot of the principles are going to be the same regardless of what generation you are. There just could be some nuances. So if someone's, let's say, getting a later start, however you even would want to define later, the principle of spending less than you make and investing the difference is going to be really important. And from a solo or from an entrepreneur perspective, and for those that that might be in business by themselves from a structural perspective, now we've talked about, solopreneurs, we still have help and support and resources. But from a business entity perspective, if you're by yourself and you have a pretty decent income, you can take advantage of a few tax things that are in the tax code, like solo 401ks or SEP IRAs, simple IRAs. So again, not to get too technical right now, but you do have some more options afforded to you as an entrepreneur, where you can maybe put in even more money every single year, assuming that you have the income to be able to do that, and put more tax advantage money away. So that would be one of the keys that you would have afforded to you as an entrepreneur. And so really just trying to dump as much money in and save as much money as you possibly can, while also still enjoying your life in the present, because life is a journey, and you don't want to just focus so much on the future that you miss out on what God has for you right now.
Exactly. Great points. Well, one of the reasons I asked Brandon is because I run into a lot of women who are in the corporate arena, but they don't want to be. They want to leave. The only reason they're staying, and I hear this a lot, is I can't leave because I'm getting insurance here. And what about my 401k? And I explained to them, entrepreneurs can get insurance and they can have 401ks. And their minds are blown. Like, what? I said, yeah, it is possible. So thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. No, really good question.
Good question. Great answer. Because, sometimes I'd be like, well, he just worked with the Henrys, the millennials. The Henrys are millennials. So, he don't work with the Xers like me, but, we're good people to work with too. We need you. Because believe it or not, there are a lot of women and men, a lot of entrepreneurs, especially women, who do not, in my age range, who do not have a financial future set. Like they don't have a financial future. They don't think about, one day I may want to retire one day, right? So they don't. And I see some of it, and I watch how some of them struggle. I think about this one woman who's an entrepreneur, and unfortunately she has cancer, and so she has to do a lot of fundraisers to raise the money, because the planning was poor, right? In preparing for, she's in her 70s, in preparing for her years when she's older, so yeah. So listen, Brandon, when the Xers come to you, we need you. Get us going, okay?
Hey, right now, I don't turn people away. I mean, my marketing is going to be geared towards people that are typically plus or minus 10 years of me, but there's not been a time that I still work with some retirees and definitely some Gen X. So yeah, so I don't discriminate from that perspective. As long as we're a good personality fit too, all good.
Yeah. And Brandon, okay.
I have a question for Phil, and then we're gonna move on here. Phil,
don't ask me about my phone ringing.
Why your phone wasn't turned off? That's good.
The host of the podcast forgot to shut off his phone.
You did not shut your phone off. All right, Brandon, it's your turn.
Yeah, well, we haven't asked you a question yet, Latara. So you've also been in business for a few years now. So if you had the wisdom that you have right now, but could tell yourself right before you launched your first business, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Well, little known fact about me is that I've actually been in business since AJ was a baby. So my very first business was a daycare. I had a daycare for 4 years, with kids ages 0 to 12. Woo, and I think that what I would tell myself before getting started is kind of some of the stuff that Dory said earlier, but also is to really make sure that you have a strong community, and don't try to do it all by yourself. Give yourself grace, a lot of grace. And don't feel bad. Don't put shame or guilt on yourself, because that's not God. If you're condemning yourself, that's not God. And that's not something I knew back then, because I had to actually shut my daycare down in a just like literally overnight. I lost my daycare, and it took me into a space. I lost my daycare in literally 48 hours later, I was homeless. And so it took me into a tailspin of, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. I'm this, I'm that. And not really knowing that it wasn't where I was a failure, right? It's where the situation presented itself to where I had to make a choice to save me and my child. And so that was the best thing. I had to send AJ here to Oklahoma. I was in LA at the time. And when I look at that period of time, it really helped me to establish some things within myself that I think were gave me a different type of foundation and resolve when I went back into business some years later. So, you know, that's what I would tell myself, girl, you're gonna be good. Like you're gonna be good no matter the situation, you're gonna be good. You know? So yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
I guess so.
Brandon, actually, you almost asked the identical question that I had listed for Latara. And I would like to know, you've also made a major health transformation over the last 10 years in particular in your life, Latara. And I know there are a lot of people, women in particular, who look at themselves in the mirror and they say, I'm not worth it. I can't do it. You know, so why bother trying? So I'd like to know just that same question is, what would you have said if right now you was talking to 10 years ago you, or whatever point where you started that major health journey for you, what advice would you give to 10 years ago you to help her know her value and also to motivate her?
I think 10 years ago, me and thinking about where I was 10 years ago is to let God love you, number one, because that's what he said to me when I was like, what do I do, God? And it wasn't about my health. It was about something totally different. And he said, let me love you. And I was just like, I don't even know what that looks like. Like, I honestly didn't. I have been a believer since 1997. Wait, no, 89. That's what, 89. And I didn't know what it was like to allow God to love me, because that's not something that was taught over the pulpit necessarily. You learn God loves you, but okay, well, what does that look like? And so it was a journey for me to let him love me. And in letting him love me, one of the things he showed me was my health. Like, I want you healthy. I want you to take care of yourself. And it's not just about, like, I've done Weight Watchers. I've done Weight Watchers and lost almost 100 pounds and gained all of that back again. And learning that it wasn't just that love wasn't just about, oh, I lost weight, God's proud of me now. No. It's a holistic thing, because it was mind, it was my heart and my body that he was like, I want you to submit all of those parts to me. And I think I would tell myself 10 years ago, again, let God love you, because it's been the difference in everything that I've done as far as my health, because I don't see my health just as my body. I see it as a whole perspective, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Because physically, again, I lost almost 100 pounds, but mentally and emotionally, I was a wreck. And so because I was a wreck, what did I do? I went right back to those bad habits again. I was eating wrong. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. I wasn't moving. I was a work potato, not a couch potato. I sat in front of the computer all day long, didn't get up and move. But now that I've learned this, what I call just this synergistic way of being and living, it's totally different. And it all came from understanding that he loves me and he doesn't devalue me, and not to devalue myself, because I'm a pearl. He showed me that. And if you read and research pearls, they are a powerful gem. Powerful. That was good. Thank you, Alicia, for asking that. But I'm gonna use somebody else real quick here, because Alicia asked me a question, Brandon asked me a question. Phil, who you got a question for?
Let's see. Let's go with Alicia. All right. What are some personal tips that you have for pressing into community, even when others in the community seem to not want to go deeper?
Oh my goodness. I'm in trouble. Phil's asking me to solve my own personal problem, in case anybody hadn't noticed just then. Okay, so I would say number one, give yourself grace. So I've learned where I best operate in community is with face-to-face interactions. and best for me and personal, in like, physically face to face is the best way. And so I've had to give myself grace that sometimes I either have to be more intentional or work a little bit harder at relationships like we have to have sometimes in Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur, where it is a digital type of relationship. And there is a place for that for everyone. I would say specifically in your local community, I personally believe that each and every single one of us has something of value to add to the community in which we live, where God has planted us. And so first of all, don't fit into the mold that someone else has for you, because just like with business, you weren't ever meant to fit into somebody else's cookie cutter. God created a cookie cutter for you, and then he threw it away. So figure out where you fit in, and then step into getting involved, whether that be active involvement, whether that be conversational, whether that be in your church community, in that place. But be bold and comfortable in who you are and who God created you to be, and don't try to be someone else, because you will never have fulfillment in getting involved in community when you try to be someone that God didn't create you to be. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's what I would say.
No, that was a good answer. Good answer. Like we're on a game show.
That was good. That was
That's
good.
a little bit better than "you are the weakest link. Goodbye."
That was good. That was really good.
What does she win, Drew?
I have a question for Joy. Joy, you scuba dive. We know you are a scuba diver, right? What have been some of the biggest lessons about living that you've learned while scuba diving? Just about being alive. What are some of the best lessons you've learned?
Wow. How much time do we have? I've learned quite a bit from that.
Okay, give me three. Give me three, Joy. Give me three.
You know, piggybacking on what Phil and Alicia were just talking about, having community, right? You need to be able to surround yourself with an inner circle of people that you trust when you're diving, because guess what? Your life depends on it. And so I can tell you right now that there's a handful of people that I will definitely count on to go scuba diving with. And I know that they have my back. In comparison, before I met my husband, my boyfriend of 3 years was a narcissist, and he would just leave me while we were diving. I couldn't trust him. I couldn't count on that. There's a comparison there for you, right? So another thing that I have come to learn as a life lesson is a lot of people just go diving because it's a fun sport, but over the evolution of Joy and her walk with the Lord, I started this thing, and you may have heard me talk about it before, but I actually invite the Lord into what I'm doing with scuba diving, and I ask him to show me what you got. I'm literally sitting on the back of the dive boat talking to him. And then when we dive into the depths, Holy Spirit and I lean into him for the moment, and he will show me things that get back to the boat and other people didn't see. And it's an incredible experience. But just like that, I've also learned about my humanness, because he'll point something out to me and I get so mesmerized and so caught up in the details that I forget to go back to him. And all of a sudden I'll go, oh, wait, I'm sorry. What else do you want to show me? And then we get back on track and go. And that is, to me, a life lesson, right? You have to remember that God is right there with you, waiting to take you to the next step in your journey in life and in business, and the small things and in the big things.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for that. That's really good. This is why I love asking these questions. I'm learning so much about you all today. Like so many things that I didn't know. Some things I did know. And some things I needed to know. Right? I won't say ain't nothing nobody said that I didn't want to know. I want to know everything that y'all talked about today, okay, that we talked about so far. So now, Joy, it's your turn. Who do you have a question for?
I actually have one for you. I've been waiting for this.
Again?
So, yeah,
Okay.
again. I'm sorry, but I have two questions for each of you, so we're gonna have to follow up offline. But
okay.
You know, they touched on this some in the questions, but you've been through a lot of challenges in your life and business, and you've been very, very transparent about that. And I'm wondering, how has your faith with the Lord helped you overcome these obstacles and become the strong, inspirational woman that you are today?
Woo, that's a journey. That's funny right there, because it's been some days when I told God, you know what, I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to do this no more. Can I just go back to being Inglewood Latara? It was a whole lot easier for me then, Lord. But you want me to have this grace and this mercy, and you want me to move in this way and that way. And if I move in this way, I'll get results a whole lot quicker, Jesus. But it don't. So it's been a battle. It's been a battle just getting comfortable with with moving in grace. It's been a battle. And I looked at myself a couple of weeks ago, and I said, literally a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, man, I think Inglewood Latara done sat all the way down. Like, she don't even want to come up out the corner no more. She's retired. And that was, for me, that was huge for to say that, because I had an incident a couple of months ago where literally I picked up a phone, said hello, and someone said a cuss word to me that was not too nice, after we had a little exchange via text. And I wanted to jump out my skin and say anything and everything. And I heard God say, give grace. And I did not want to give grace, but I had to in that season, in that moment. And eventually the person came back and apologized and asked for forgiveness and all those other things. But in that moment, because of what I have learned with God, I had set some boundaries. Like, it was a boundary, not a wall. I was like, let me set this boundary right now, because I will not pick up a phone and hear that word out of that mouth again. And so it's just been really interesting walking this whole path with him, because I have literally, when he said, let me love you, these are the things he has taught me in letting him love me. It wasn't where he was like, shame on you, you shouldn't do this. It was still me being me. Like, if I get petty, I get shady, I'd still do that sometimes. I like that petty shady part is fun sometimes. But but it's been a journey learning how to do this thing with grace and having mercy to go along with. We speak grace a lot, but we don't talk about mercy a whole lot. And the two go together, right? You can't have grace and not have mercy. And so I've had to really learn how to carry that and balance that well, even in like gaining my faith, because some days I didn't want to have grace and mercy. It was like, and I think those two things helped me to find or grow my faith. I've always been a woman of strong resolve. I've always been someone who that bounce back pretty fast or whatever. But if I bounce back, sometimes I'm gonna bounce back with a fist. I don't bounce back with a fist no more. So I don't want y'all thinking that I was fighting all the time. Sometimes the fist was my mouth, okay? But I would bounce back with a fist, and you were going to feel that. I was going to make sure you felt that. And that's just not who I am anymore. And so it carries over in business, because people see the transition and they see the transformation, and they're like, oh my gosh, she did it. Wait a minute. Okay. Let me let God love me. Right? So there you go.
Thank you. That was very good.
You are welcome. This has been good. One more question. One more question. Who has a question for Phil? Because he's only answered one question.
I've got a question for Phil.
Okay, Joy.
Okay, so Phil, this is about work-life balance. Balancing a successful business, being a dad to 3 daughters, and a supportive partner with Shay. I'm sure there's ups and downs and challenges. You've shared some of them, but how do you prioritize your time and maintain a healthy work-life balance while staying grounded in your faith?
This is not gonna. Well, let me not try to soften it. But to tell you the truth, my priority is the wife and the kids, right? Because although I have the responsibility of being CEO of Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur, as well as my own massage practice, oftentimes I'm looking for opportunities to prioritize them because God can make up the difference in the other stuff. No one else can, serve my wife like I'm going to serve her. And no one else can serve the kids like I'm going to serve them. But other people can do this massage thing. I can hire someone to do that, right? And other people can actually do this CEO thing at Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur much better than I can. All the skill aspect of it, right? God is tapping into me setting direction, but everything else, other people can do it more effectively, more efficiently. And so I think coming to the understanding early enough to know that, and quite frankly, if I ever showed up in a way where I stopped, being my wife's servant, she wouldn't know how to handle it. The reason I'm just saying, the reason she's able to be as efficient as she is, and she can accomplish as much as she can accomplish, is because God has already taught me that that's my primary role: support my family first, and He'll help me figure out how to put the other pieces together. And so that's the reason why we're able to be effective here. This week, the amount of stuff that I could have accomplished if I just, was like, you know what, let me just try to do work, would have paled in comparison to the amount of work that Shay Bonds has accomplished from Monday to today. With something that we just made a decision to roll out this week. She's already completed all the things, right? Wow. And because God has given me wisdom to be able to see that sometimes it's not by my might, it's not by my strength, but by, His Spirit. I have to plug into whatever the Spirit is saying in that moment. Just support her. Do this, do that. Make sure you got her dinner ready for her. Barefooting in the kitchen.
Oh no, he didn't go there.
Yeah, I went there.
Well, wait, I have to say, I've had your cooking. You're a good cook, so that's good. I'm glad you got that done.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand, because I've been there a few times and you ain't never cooked for me. So hold up.
We went to retreats. Let me tell you, we went to retreats. He took over the kitchen. I got to eat it.
I've been in their house and I've been on retreats with him. He ain't never cooked for me. I'm always the one cooking the bacon and all that other. We got to do something different here, Phil Bond.
That's your love language. You just get in there first. That's what that is.
Alicia, what were you gonna say?
Hey, I was just Phil said some really amazing things there, but I just really wanted to pull out something that he said that's so important. I think as entrepreneurs, oftentimes we get into this, like, we have to do it all thing. And I want to make sure people heard him say, no one else can be Phil Bine's husband to my wife. Someone else can do this job. Someone else can do this job. Someone else can do this job, but no one else can be father to my children and husband to my wife. And I think that's really important as entrepreneurs to figure out how to balance. Is we need to know where it is that no one else can do the job. We have to do that job. So, and then learn how to let go of those things that we can have someone else help us with in those moments when we need balance. I think that was just like solid gold, worth this whole listen. If you hear nothing else, that was a good one. And I just wanted to highlight that.
Can I add something too? As the seasoned entrepreneur, if you imagine entrepreneurship as a wheel, and you have all these different facets: faith, finances, fitness, family, friends, right? It's so easy to get caught into doing business, all the business things. And then when you take a step back, if you've been doing it for a long time and you haven't, given any attention to the other things, then you're out of balance. So please make sure you go back and carve out some time for relationships with family and friends. Don't do business all the time. Like Phil said, God will help you out in the other areas, but He can't help you be, the best family member or the best friend. That's up to you.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that. I was going to actually piggyback on that as well, Phil, because that was powerful. I think that was one of the best answers from the whole entire hour. I think about this new level of caretaking that has happened, and I pray you'll watch God kind of sort it out for you. And I prayed, and I was like, God, look, I can't work like I was working. There's this new level of caretaking, because literally, again, it's not Alzheimer's, it's not dementia, it's that her short-term memory is really affected. And so it's like some days, literally, she could be standing right here and I could say, Mama, go get. And then she'll go, what am I supposed to go do? Like literally, like about 30 seconds later. And so knowing this new level, it's been like, it's some days when I'm just like, I can't do that. I've put off launches of courses and classes and different things like that, because it's key that you understand. Listen, like Phil said, he can only be Phil. One Phil binds the husband, the father, right? And the man, because he has to take care and tend to himself as well. There's only one Latara Venice, the caretaker, the mother. And even though my grandbaby is all the way out, there's times when she's like, I want to call my BB and I'm going to be there. I've stopped lives to go talk to my grandbaby. I'll call y'all back. That's my grandbaby. So, because that's what matters more than anything else. And she gets really disappointed if BB don't answer the FaceTime. And so, and I might miss her and I don't want to do that. And why miss all those things in life, to do all those things in business? It'll be there.
Yeah.
Like it'll really be there, right? So this was good. This was really good. I had so much fun answering questions, listening to you all's answers and your questions. Y'all save those questions because we're gonna probably do this again, because I started adding up the weeks to the 500th episode, and it's actually before the end of this year. So I'm super excited about that. Yes, I think it runs like right at the beginning of December, I think, is when that 500th episode is. So I'm already planning all that in my head, like, we're gonna have fun. So you never know, them questions might come back around that time, right? So, but we'll probably have Shay on the show at that time too. So maybe we'll grill Shay again. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a Let's Grill Shay.
Put her in the hot seat.
Right? So she won't mind. She won't mind at all. So we want to thank you guys so much for joining us this week. This was really good. This was great. I had fun. I know that you all have fun as well. If you are listening or watching this, make sure you share this out and let people know that we are over here. And if you are listening on your favorite streaming platform, share that as well. Let people know. If you want to listen via audio, you can over on our website, or you can also listen on any streaming platform, and we are there for you. Trust me, you can hear it. Every Wednesday is when the episode pops up via audio. All right. You guys be blessed. Have a good one. We will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye for now. God bless.